The numbers are in. They came in on Thursday. Tesla had a record quarter for deliveries of vehicles and also for deployment of energy. Big numbers. All the analysts were surprised, including the retail analysts, and pleasantly so. But does that mean it's over? Does that mean Q4 is the end of the world? Are we going to fall off a cliff? I don't think so, but there's some things we need to discuss. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So I got my buddy Jon Twigge here, live from the UK, from 8 hours in the future. I appreciate you time traveling for this very special interview.
You've got to wait 8 hours for me to answer, you see.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, I was ready to start all over if I had to.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Press release. Tesla, company you and I may have heard of, had a pretty good quarter, delivering 497,099 cars against production, quite a bit lower.
The first thing I would say is, as you were talking, as it actually happened, we saw a big spike in the share price, but it's now down 3%. What does that? How does that work? What was the expectation that there'd be a massive beat? I can't work out that market. That's very strange, and I don't think the general market is down. If we check on the
so if you were watching the live stream on Thursday, you would see that just before the numbers came out, the numbers came out to somebody, and it started taking off. We saw in the pre-market, yes, it was up quite a bit, $10, $15. And then when the market opened, it was still up, and it dropped back to below where it was. And what I would attribute that to is buy the rumor, sell the news. And a lot of people had their rumor, had their little, if you could get 2% in a day, 1% in a day, every day, oh my gosh, you'd be very rich. So
what I would say is that selling the news is because often it's hyped too much. But this was a complete surprise. Nobody was expecting it to be this high. So it just doesn't make sense to me that the news that is so good can still be bad. Very strange world.
It is a strange world. We are recording this on Thursday, so I will share this. This is what the stock looks like over the past week. And you can see that there was quite a bit of rumor buying. There was a lot of buildup. And I think what we were seeing on Wednesday was the analyst consensus was so low that anything but a beat seemed very unlikely.
Yeah.
And all these folks, let's go back out to a month. If you started buying back here, even selling now after the pullback is still quite attractive. You'd still be up, 32%, 33%, depending when you bought it. So it's not that crazy. If Wall Street's going to miss by that much, and the reality is none of this matters over the long term. None of it matters over the medium term. Eventually, only execution is what will matter.
It's just a little frustrating if you do look at the numbers, but I don't follow them in that perspective. It's just crazy. It's like they'll do what they do. In the long run, we'll get all these other things happening. We'll get Optimus. The Robo-taxis will expand and go driverless at some point, and the numbers will really begin to explode as that comes through to the bottom line. So what it does today, I think, is irrelevant in terms of share price. It's just...
We are going to go market by market and see what we think next quarter is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because you've got some interesting thoughts for the UK. I've got some interesting thoughts for markets other than the UK. I did want to say 12.5 gigawatt hours. I'm just going to stick with that. Deployed of products deployed. That is huge. That is wonderful. I know a lot of people are saying, gosh, I thought it was going to be more. They've got Lathrop running at full steam. That should have been 10 right there. 2.5 out of China. That seems low. No, my friends, it's still ramping. It's still lumpy. Next quarter could be 15, 18 as those shipped models come online. The units that were shipped may not be counted as deployed until the final pay is in.
And that can take quite a long time to deploy, can't it? So as they're ramping up, I don't know what the delay is, and it will depend on the project. how long it will take them. So actually, bigger projects will take longer to turn on. So you're going to tie up a lot of money in quite a
Yeah.
big project. Whereas if you just happen by chance to have served a few smaller batteries, they might come on faster, different markets. So at that scale, there is nothing you can do. It's going to remain lumpy in terms of how fast the money comes through.
Absolutely. Now, if we look at James Stevenson at I cannot underscore enough, went ahead and put out this. This is just a chart showing how pretty it has been. This is quarter by quarter. This doesn't look like the end of the road to me. The fact that a record quarter doesn't even really look like a record quarter
Mm,
is just a sign of how good things are going. Now, I did make a funny post saying Tesla had a great quarter and posted a screenshot of an article about BYD having a less than good quarter. That's a
yes,
joke,
I
you
saw. Yeah,
guys. I'm
but
not.
that graph, it's hard to see any kind of slowdown at all. Even though some people are disappointed that we didn't already go to 3 million or whatever they were hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
obviously,
this
there's
is
macro.
cumulative, though. This is
Yes, I think, and
so
that does hide it, doesn't it? So it's a little bit
yeah,
selective to show it like that.
it is. It is. But, it's just one thing. So
Mm.
let's first talk about the US. Will sales go up or down in Q4? Logic says down. But that's because the 7,500 credit ended. I've had viewers tell me that amount of money is meaningless to Tesla buyers. I assure you it is not meaningless. If it was,
Mm.
they would already be priced 7,500 higher. Uh, the prices are chosen for very specific reasons, a balance
Mm.
of what consumers will accept and what you can afford to sell at.
Yeah.
But I would say that without new models, there would be some drawback in
Mm.
demand. A number of people who would have bought in Q4 bought in Q3 instead to take advantage of the credit. And then you've got the fact that Q4 is already a strong quarter. Q4 is a seasonally strong quarter for auto sales. So it's a mixed bag
And we've
before we
also
even.
got the fact that it was clarified fairly late on that as long as you ordered,
Mhm. Yes, there will be a carryover of sales that were placed yesterday, before yesterday, last month.
and obviously Tesla's systems are completely automated. As long as the order ended up on the computer, they could have taken huge numbers of orders. So it's quite possible, and they were sending emails, they were doing various adverts, which they don't do much of, but in a few places. So it's quite possible with the normal fourth quarter plus some carryover, might not go down at all.
Mhm.
Especially when you consider that there might be new models later on in the quarter. So I would say overall it's really difficult to know, but I wouldn't expect a huge fall immediately.
And that's before we consider new models. We do
Yeah.
have the performance model that has been released, the performance
Mm.
trim of the Model Y. That's going to drive some sales. I don't think it's their bestseller. I think the long range all wheel drive is by far the bestseller, but performance Model Y is something many have been waiting for.
Yeah. I actually saw a review of that performance on Top Gear, and the headline was Reasons You Shouldn't Buy This Tesla.
Ooh,
But I thought
well,
I'll watch it anyway. They loved it. Nothing wrong with it.
oh, wow.
The only thing they were saying is that $10,000 or even pounds price difference from the long range all wheel drive is a big step unless you're specifically looking for that very fast
Yes.
performance, which most people won't. So it's not going to be the biggest seller.
No, but that's just to capture the early sales. What
Yeah.
they've done is they've given it a high price, but bundled in the tow hitch and a
Mm.
free color. That right there is for $4,000, $5,000 value. Strip those back out. You're back out of the realm of crazy.
Mm.
So we're going to see Model Y performance sales ticking up. But we've also got the YL in China, which was off to a slow start. About 1,100 the first week, 900, about 900 both of the second and third weeks, jumped to 4,000.
Mm.
So that means a that over 1% of the cars sold this quarter were YL. It's a meaningful contributor to the bottom line, even though it only existed for a month. Those sales are likely to expand.
And I can imagine in China, uh, there are an awful lot of people that want those for carrying family around, or it's a big step up in terms of utility with the extra seat. And you could also imagine that might make an excellent robo-taxi if they started using it, because
Yes.
we're going from potentially 3 seats now with a supervised driver to 6 when it becomes unsupervised. That's serious. Obviously, you go on the app, order your robo-taxi, and I think at some point you'll have to tell it how many people. Obviously, maybe you don't at the moment. I don't know.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the driver's seat remains blocked off just for regulatory or safety
Mm.
reasons, but that's still a solid 5 seats. And there are people I've seen who've said they're going to buy it just because it's a better executive car. I want to ride in the second row. This is a much more comfortable second row. There you go. So
Yeah, in terms of blocking that seat off, I don't think many people would, but it only takes one or two to stamp on the accelerator or stamp on the brake. And
yeah,
but on the other hand, if you're in the passenger seat or even in the back seat, if you're determined to stop it, what's to stop you leaning forward from the back row and yanking the steering wheel?
you have more time to rethink your poor decision. But I think it's less about malice and more
Mm.
about accidents,
Okay.
misunderstandings, mistakes. It'd be very easy to go to look over your shoulder and snag the wheel.
Yes. Yeah.
It'd be habit to see traffic in front of you and stomp on the brake.
Mm.
Where from the back seat, you would obviously not do that. And the way around that would be there are wheel covers that have been installed over a handful of robo taxis in China, not very many, because it's
Covering the
not a
wheel,
real
steering wheel.
covering the steering wheel, boxing it in
Okay.
like a cake display.
Well, well, a
Um,
technical question. There's no reason
yes.
you couldn't take the steering wheel out if FSD 15 or whatever it might be is that good.
What do you do about the airbag? You'd have to redesign it. It's
Yeah,
something they
but
could redesign. It would be a much easier redesign than building a whole new car for sure. But you wouldn't just
yeah.
remove it. There'd be some steps in between, but not impossible.
Mm.
Just put it on ball bearings, make it decorative. It's like Maggie Simpson's passenger wheel. It's fine.
But we also know Elon said there's a chance it will never come to the US. Was he sandbagging?
Yes. Yes, of course he was. That doesn't make any sense. I had a number of people get very hot under the collar telling me that, hey, if Elon says it's not coming, it's not coming. How dare you doubt the master? Guys, he's been less than forthcoming about model releases in the past. Why would this be any different? Tesla's changed course many times.
And he didn't say it's not. He just said might not come
He said,
ever.
if ever, is what he said.
Yes. But
And
but he
yeah,
might be testing the water. If he gets lots of comments, there's probably somebody reading all the replies, automated, to see how many people object.
yeah, taking the temperature.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And maybe the sales in China were a complete flop. That would make you reconsider. But if
Mm.
you've already done all the engineering, why wouldn't you release the car? It doesn't make sense. So
I'm curious in China in terms of 4,000. Well, was it almost exactly 4,000?
almost exactly.
I wonder if that's hitting the initial production limit. Maybe they need to
Mm.
expand the hours, put another shift in, or do we know? Is it a totally separate line
No,
being dedicated?
it's the
It's the
same line
same.
as the Y. Mm-hmm.
So they just got to switch it in and out as they need it.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm.
So, with that said, we haven't even talked about the more affordable model, which we've seen
Mm.
some leaks about. I've seen a number of people suggesting, "Oh my gosh, it could be 20,000. It could be 25." It can't. It's not going to.
No.
That's not. There's not enough parts to reduce to make that happen unless you wish to forego the battery. I
Mm.
think the battery is pretty important. I think we need to keep the drivetrain intact. There's just not enough atoms to remove. The glass, you can save a
But the
few hundred
battery could be
there.
slightly smaller.
It could be, but then you've got to design a new battery, which they might do for something of that kind of volume.
Mm.
Um,
Well, do
but
they need a new battery or just miss some of the cells out, put padding in or something?
well, it's still an engineering challenge. They wouldn't have to
Yeah.
retool, but they would have to redesign. But they are able to do that. When there was a battery shortage in 1819, they started making medium range Model 3s just because that's the amount of cells they had to match with demand.
And if the motor in theory could be smaller, but that's probably even more of an engineering challenge on the line to have different motors. But they could certainly software limit it. So you've got lower acceleration, lower top speed,
Yeah.
less drag on average, So you're going to get, maybe if it's slightly smaller, or they put some work in to make it even more aerodynamic, we're going to get a car that is going to run on average slightly more efficiently. So
Yes.
perhaps 10%, we could at least reduce the battery by 10, 20%, cutting a few thousand, I guess.
Well, it's more the drag that you're worried about on
Yeah.
on electric cars. But what they would definitely do is make it a single motor. It's definitely going to be a single motor instead of
Oh,
a
no
dual,
doubt.
of course. And we've seen a lot of the rear infotainment. I don't know how many folks out there have it. It doesn't get much use.
No.
It would get more use if you could have DJ mode where the person in the back could control the radio, but that's not an option at this time. Please
Perhaps for
introduce it.
robo-taxis, it's more important to have that second screen. But
Well,
for
they
ordinary
can
people,
control a lot of stuff back there for themselves, but the front can't hear it as well,
yeah.
which is disappointing. But hey, what are you going to do?
So what's your estimate of the total cost cutting that they might achieve?
I think it's going to be in the 30s, but only just. I think it's going to be about 38 to 40,000.
Oh, sales price.
Oh, sales price, yes. Oh, in terms of the actual cost of goods sold, you've got probably 1,000 on the glass, on the roof glass. You've got probably another 150 on the seat materials. You've got another 150 on the simplified armrest with no rear infotainment. You've got probably another 150 on the simplified sound system. Realistically, all in, the cheaper wheels and tires, I'm going to say they're probably able to cut $4,000 out of it, maybe $5,000.
Because what this brings to mind for me is ARK Invest and Rethink X draw those demand curves.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you move over by a few thousand, the total reachable market, addressable market, becomes much bigger.
Right.
So if you've got much higher volume and it's a newer line, they've optimized the line, they've done various things. With a simpler model, it probably goes through a little faster if you've got a dedicated line. You could probably shave off another 5% of the total cost with all of those things, with extra volume, various different things. If they're willing to take a slightly lower margin as well, they can potentially squeeze in quite a lot, move up that demand curve even more.
And that's all possible. I am very hopeful for that. As everyone but us knows, there was a big event in Texas on, I think, Thursday, but it's impossible to know what it was because we have not traveled that far into the future yet. But I'm expecting that was either a performance Model Y, a YL, or a compact, or an all three kind of event, because of the people invited were car people and not robot people.
I'll give you a call when I get to that time.
Great. So I'll have an 8-hour head
early.
start. Well, I tell you, when I was in China earlier this year, when I was in Nepal, it was so wonderful being in the future. But the real only benefit was I could absolutely destroy your odds of getting a spoiler-free experience on tomorrow's New York Times puzzles, Wordle, strands, connections. I'm going to ruin it for you because I have such a head start. Anyway, what we're saying is,
I can't imagine they would have an event just for a Model Y performance.
I don't think so either. I think that's very unlikely.
It's got to be compact or something,
especially since they've already announced it. Since we already know what it is.
Yes.
And so many people.
We've got the compact performance.
YL.
Again, I don't think it is. We've seen it in China. We've seen lots of news. We know it's much better. I can't even. I mean, are those influencers going to be happy that they've gone and sat in the back of a long Model Y? Was it worth the journey? I can't imagine.
Well, I mean, do you think they're going to be excited to sit in the back of a cheaper Model Y?
Yes, because of the implications to the market and sales. It could double their sales when they've ramped up completely, couldn't it? If the price is right.
I don't know about double, but it would definitely be a much bigger market segment than the YL. But what I would love to see is both.
So I remember Jeff Lutz's face when somebody said on some channel, maybe I can't remember which one, when somebody said it's just a stripped out Model Y. And his face was like, no, it can't be. They've kept saying variants, new variants. It's new models, not new variants.
Yes.
And they've been saying that for some time, and that wasn't one model. So I am a little perplexed. Is that an English word? Sorry if it is.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That I mean English as opposed to American. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That why would they keep saying new models, and yet now we've gone to the rumors are all it's a Model Y, not a 3, not something else, not
Sure.
or
Sure.
maybe it's two sizes of Model Y, a compact and
Okay.
an even more compactor.
Because we haven't seen it. And if
Yeah.
they're doing the event, that means they've already done extensive road testing and it is around the corner. And if you're at the event, it's literally around the corner. Go look, it's there.
So are you now convinced that it isn't smaller than the current one?
Oh, I'm not sure. If it is only barely, it might be
Mm.
just as the YL is just barely stretched. This
Is
could
that
be
8 inches?
I don't
8 inches
recall.
bigger?
I don't recall.
Something like that. So 8 inches less wouldn't show up very well on spy shots and things.
I mean, 8 wouldn't show up on spy shots. You would
Yeah.
definitely feel it on the inside. I think 6 would be more reasonable.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could make it a little tighter. So, does that make it a new model? I don't know. Old Tesla would have called it something completely different. New Tesla says, well, if everything's a Corolla, then everything's a Model Y. So we're going to get that crown back. So,
And I said double, but I don't imagine that it will double the market now. But
mhm,
over a couple of years, that could ramp. It could.
yes.
Is it likely to steal many sales from the current one? I,
Does it
personally,
matter?
and personally, it's only me, but I would have had a cheaper one. The current one is very expensive for the UK market.
Mm-hmm. Well, does it matter? Does it matter? When my son got a car, we got the cheapest Tesla that there is
Yeah.
because he doesn't need 6 seats. Yeah, if there was an even cheaper one, that's what he would have gotten.
Mm.
Uh, the only upgrade we did was the premium red, but it was a demo model, and that was the
Mm.
color they had. Still, it's gorgeous. You have
And
to.
what we should say, of course, is that if they can. So, what's the price in the US? How much is it likely to be lower, do you think, in dollars?
Well, I think it's going to be just under 40 instead of. I think the cheapest is currently 47, 48,000.
So, we're looking at almost $10,000. But what, in terms of profit at 20%, that's only $2,000.
Yes.
It's still
And
going to
you're
get
going to
FSD
sell more.
supervised. So, long term profit, it's actually much better to have the higher volume once that gets going.
I would agree. So we're going to wrap up the US here real quick so we can move on to the other markets because we have not addressed them and we're getting kind of long on time here. I think we will see a negative impact of the loss of the 7,500, which will be offset to a degree by the strong seasonal adjustment. Quarter 4 is always strong. And if additional trims are introduced, those would also help with the sales. Looking around the world,
But you do have to ask the question just briefly. Does that mean Q1 next year might be bad compared?
Oh, Q1's always bad. So
Mm.
yes, Q1 is always bad for all manufacturers. Yes, Q1 is
Mm.
going to be bad.
Mm.
But with those, if we do have the YL and the cheaper model, those will still just be ramping.
Yes.
So those could make for a stronger than expected Q1.
Or Q2, maybe. Yes, if it
Or
takes a
Q2.
little while.
And you'd ask why the Model Y? Why not the Model 3? And the answer is Model Y is made in 4 factories across 3
Mm.
countries. To get it into the most markets possible,
Mm.
you want to have it made in the most factories possible.
Mm.
So when Canada didn't have steep China tariffs, the Model 3s and Ys going to Canada came from Shanghai. They
Yeah.
increased the tariff. They started shipping them from the US. Tariff on the US, they started coming from Berlin. The Model
Mm.
Y is cheaper in Canada than the Model 3 by quite a bit because the Model 3 is only made in 2 places and they both have high tariffs.
Is that not the case for other manufacturers? Because they have so many different models, I would guess they don't have many factories making the same model in different bits of the world. I don't know.
Correct. I was pointing out that Nissan has fallen to something like 2 million, 2.5 million sales. And somebody said, that's still more than Tesla. And I said, right, but they've got dozens of models,
Mm.
dozens. And so that means each model selling what? 50,000, 100. I
Yeah.
mean, some of them are selling, well. Some of them are probably only moving 50,000 units. And
What
the
have they
average
come
being,
from? Were they 3, 4 million before?
oh, I think they were 5, 6 million at one
Wow.
point.
Okay. So
They might
they're
have
pretty
not
hard.
hit six, but they were well in the 3 to 4 range. Nissan is in trouble. You
And with
begin
all the
losing
fixed
economies of
costs,
scale. Yes, that's
all the
exactly it.
factories, all the unions, they can't get rid of staff easily, all those things. Very, very hard to continue as your sales drop.
Yes, it's like paying utilities on a mansion when it's just you living in one part of it. It's going to eat you
Yes.
alive.
Yeah.
So, in other markets, China is still doing well.
And very well with that 4,000 last week, which might continue to go up.
Yes, it's something new. In China, they love the new hotness. This has a bunch of features that feel very China specific. The powered
Mm.
armrest on the second row, uh, the ability to address the car from any seat and it knows where you're addressing it from. That's a very Chinese feature. They
Mm.
in that market, all the manufacturers love their voice assistants. They don't work well in any car I've been in. Some of them might work well in Chinese.
I'm going to have to ask a question.
Yes.
Why is that useful? Do
Oh,
they
it's
play the
not.
response through that
Oh, it's
speaker
not.
or something? Or
Oh, well, no. So that if I say roll my window down, it knows who said it.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So it's got
Turn on
very
my seat
small
warmer.
utility.
Very small utility. But voice
Yeah,
assistants generally, I don't. I like it in the Tesla because I can push the button and say navigate to. I can push the button and say play this on Spotify or YouTube Music, and it'll play it.
yeah.
But I
I've
don't.
given up completely with mine, and it's just not worth it for most things. Apart from the wipers, that sometimes occasionally because it's so annoying. But we haven't yet got Grok integrated with controlling the car. I think at
Yes.
that point, it starts to get much more interesting.
Well, because you can just ask it a real question.
Yeah.
Guys, tomorrow we're doing a show just about Grok and what it's very good at and what it's not.
Mm.
Because I have, despite my early deep skepticisms of Grok and all the other LLMs, found some really great uses for it, especially in the car. So, yes,
But talking China, then,
yes,
it's surprising superficially, and unless you know the real qualities of a Tesla compared to some of the other cars, that the Model Y is always around one of the top models, if not the top model in China, despite being massively, is that fair to say, more expensive than many of those other cars? Not that
yes,
not the more expensive, but there are much
sure.
cheaper models.
Sure. In the top
But
five, you'll typically find Wuling,
yeah,
which has a retail price lower than the markup on a Tesla.
yes, tiny little things.
Mhm.
But that's still that's despite that high price, it's achieving good numbers, but that's in a very large market. So if the cheaper
Yes.
models go into China and you're still possible with FSD, the hope is that even though it becomes a cheaper model, it still feels like a Tesla. We hope.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
therefore, for the desirability for many Chinese that can't afford a current Model Y, it might be. But actually, now I can. I can imagine a very big surge if we get a quite an affordable Model Y in China.
Mhm. So, the China market doing well. Korea, we're seeing strong numbers. Japan, we're finally starting to see some decent numbers despite very low EV adoption. Spain, we've seen some great numbers. Most of Tesla's sales take place outside the US. If the IRA going away was your concern, it should only be your concern in the US, nowhere else.
Can you
Other
define
countries,
most? Is it 60%,
it's
70%?
probably, yeah, 55 to 60%. The US
Okay.
is a very big market.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I guess it's probably more like 60, 65.
Mm,
The China factory is a massive producer.
mm,
So it's the crown jewel
mm.
in the empire for sure. Now let's talk about incentives in other countries. You had an interesting theory about the UK. Share that with us.
A small snippet before that. Uh, car parks. Am I allowed to say that? Parking
Sure.
lots. I live very close to the Manchester Trafford Centre, which is the distribution centre for a large part of the country. It was full to overflow. Well, not too overflowing, it was literally overflowing into a large additional area of cars just a week ago. I haven't been past since, but that would indicate the UK sales should be very good. We haven't got them yet, have we? Couple of days before we get UK sales, but I think the UK is going to be really good on that basis.
Hmm.
And what else were we going to say?
The incentive
Yes,
structure and your
yeah.
theory on the more affordable model.
Just 2 months ago, the government here has switched to the other party a year ago or so. So presumably they've been working on incentives, and a little surprisingly to many people, a new incentive came out for EVs. There were two levels: £3,750 and £1,500. The rumours were, or the hopes or expectations were, that many European cars would get the full 3,750, which is a significant amount of money off a small car, perhaps 22,000, the cheapest electric. Well, the cheapest proper cars. There's a Dacia one that's like £15,000 with a range of only 100 miles. It's great as a tiny city car, but not practical for many things. So that would have been significant. But when they actually came out, they all came out at 1,500. I think there's a couple of Fords eventually got the full 3,750, but most of the cars that people were expecting to get that didn't get it. The government website is vague. It says something about sustainability of the manufacturing, but nobody knows what the exact criteria are. So quite how they've brought most of them down. But if it's Tesla are known for having the most efficient factories, the most modern factories. Therefore, you would hope that a Tesla would get the maximum 3,750. That is big. There is a caveat that they've deliberately, being the Labour Party, they want to make it more appealable and not subsidise luxury cars. They've put a ceiling on that grant of £37,000 list price.
Okay.
The current Model Y, rear-wheel drive, it's 45,000.
So we only need to cut $8,000 off of it.
Yeah.
We're already thinking, I'm thinking it could be in the 40-ish thousand pounds range. Unlike the Hummer, which just weighs 40,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And then Tesla could choose to lose a little bit to make it, because in terms of sustainability, the factory, the mining practices, heck, even the water usage out of Giga Berlin is exceptional. But right now, the Model Y is just over the price limit anyhow. So if it got down to 38,000 and 37. You could take another 37,000.
Yeah. If the natural price became 38, they could squeeze a little more just to hit. And we know they do that. They adjust prices all. Canada, we see it quite a lot in different levels. So
how much do you think the volume would change between a customer price of 40,000 versus a customer price of then 33.5? That's a huge net difference to the consumer. What would that do?
I would say that's a completely different market for many people, that it will address a completely different market, because at 40,000, that's still a lot. I get a bit jealous that I see various expos talking about lease prices of Model Y only $400 or $300. If I go HP to buy outright a Model Y, you're looking at £600 or £700, which is $800. Yeah. But if we can drop that right down, and they're willing to do low interest as well, you're suddenly going to be dropping significantly to buy them. And if you do a PCP where you've got the return, you can squeeze it down even more. That is starting to hit a level that's very average in the UK. And I would say that could triple the affordability to many people, whether they choose to take it, because a lot of people are talking about politics. But I'd be excited. Yeah, you've got to remember, I am a fool. I'm always over optimistic, but it's exciting.
Here's what I'll say is, I think getting down to that price is not 37,000 pounds. That is not crazy at all. What is that in dollars? I mean, we're kind of right there already, aren't we? in my numbers anyway. But if all it needs is a little bit of squeeze,
Yeah.
that could allow Berlin to significantly increase production.
Mm.
And if that is a price they can hit in the UK, that's a price they can hit throughout Europe. Other countries may have other incentives. So while sales have been absolutely flagging in Germany for a variety of reasons I've covered on many shows,
Mm.
in other markets, it's not as impacted. So I think I am not ready to sign the death warrant for the for Tesla just yet, I guess you could put mildly.
If we get a more affordable model and it hits a few points, I could see us hitting 3 million in sales in
Mm.
18 months or so.
Mm. Okay, guys, this ran long, but it was worth it. In the
Mm.
comments, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Jon Twigge, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody
Thank you,
else, like,
Brian.
subscribe, and do what you do, and smack thumbs, yours, your neighbors. It doesn't matter. You can just use the Brian told me to defense, and I'm sure they will lock you away post haste for free. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the flippity flop.